What's up guys, it is Sam here, and today I'm going to be talking about top 10 tips for people under 35 living in Ireland for finance. But obviously do as I preach maybe and not as I do, as I'm not like the most responsible person ever with money. I have a good idea about money and where it should go, but I'm not like the most frugal of people either, because like you've got to do stuff as well. But I just want to get into like 10 tips that you can maybe take on board and might just help you reshape your own finances, give you a bit of advice, and yeah, just see where you're going to be going or what your financial goals are. Like some of these tips like will potentially help you out. Like, so everyone's looking at like the cost of milk, is the cost of Guinness, which is like €7 in some places now. Your ESB bill is highest in Europe. You've also just got like a lot of different expenses that you probably didn't account for when you were 18, 19. Now you're maybe in your mid-20s and you're like, what the hell is going on? So I've basically come up with just 10 tips that potentially could help relieve some of this pain for people. So number one is track every euro, which I maybe say like don't actually track every single euro, but have a good idea of where your money is going. Depending on what way you get paid, if you get paid on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, you basically have to budget completely differently on how you want to do things, like to give your allocated amount of money to whether it's going to be to savings, to rent, to your car, or whatever you've got coming up, if it's a holiday or something like that. But what you should do is you should track what is going on like with your money. Like that makes complete sense to do so. And if you've got a good idea about what you're going to be spending and where it's going, it does give you a bit of reassurance, and you can actually see then what you're spending your money on. Like if you spending a lot of money on restaurants or you're spending a lot of money on bars and nights out, you can basically see that very, very easily. And apps like Revolut are fantastic for this. So Revolut is basically like my number one now for tracking my expenses, managing my budgets, and just seeing where my money is going. Like, so I find it very, very easy just to split up my money and to like gradually save for different events, different holidays, budget what you want to invest or whatever, and this helps you to be able to track every single euro in essence. Like, so that's tip number one. Number two is build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, which I know this is preached by everybody in finance, that gives advice on the internet that you should be tracking your money and then building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, which is something I personally have not done. I have somewhat liquid cash, but I invest a lot of my money and they're very risk on, so it's quite different to what somebody who would be like in a very risk averse situation would be. But you should have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Who knows what's around the corner for anybody? Like you could have an illness, you could have an accident, your job could become in a vulnerable position. You need to have around 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So if you spend $2,000 a month between like your rent, your mortgage, your food, your expenses, you probably would want to have between 6,000 to 10,000 euros in savings or just a fund somewhere. You could keep it in a high interest fund that's like accessible, but have it there somewhere where you can get at it for fearing the worst. So it's just to give yourself a bit of reassurance, just for unexpected costs and just for stuff that you just don't really realize. Like, but that's something you can build up gradually. Something you can build up over like €100 a week, €100 a month. You can build it up over how long you want to do it, but I do recommend that you do something like this because yeah, everyone likes that peace of mind and never to be in a bit of a tight spot. So the third piece of advice I want to get onto is crushing bad debt. So people are asking like, what is the difference between good and bad debt? So potentially like having a mortgage is a good piece of debt because you're using it to own an asset. Bad debt is having a 25% interest rate on your credit card, where you've got like a 2K outstanding, like on a 25% interest rate. By the end of the year, that's gonna be 2,500. So the best way to use credit cards, and credit card companies will not like this, but you clear the credit card at the end of every month so you don't get any of the fees or charges. I know maybe easier said than done, but pay down that credit card debt as fast as you possibly can, and that will save you a bit of stress. It will save you some money, and it just gets you out of a bit of a pickle, really, for the most part. So yeah, pay down the bad debt and appreciate the good debt where you're actually putting your money towards buying an asset. Number 4 is going to be claiming your tax back, which I know most people will know this, and they claim it back in January of every year, but you can actually wait a bit of time, gather all of the documents, go to a tax advisor. They will charge you a fee, but they will be able to help you assign like your tax credits, whether it be like for the rental tax credit, which is here. You get worker relief from working remotely, you get dentist claims, medical prescription claims. I'm sure there's plenty of other things as well that people claim for. Also, there's like the ACS pension, which you can claim some of that money back as well. So if you are doing that, it is worth to go to a tax advisor to make sure you're getting as much tax back as possible. Because if you just go in January when it opens and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do my tax back, you may just get like nothing, or you may actually owe them some money and then you haven't like submitted what you've got. So sometimes it's worth going for professional help, and that's something that you should definitely do when it comes to this sort of stuff. So another one is, this is number 5, is max out your pension match. So if your company that you're working for is willing to do 7%, I would do the 7% because they're going to match it. So max out the amount of it. So the good thing about pensions is they're generally taken from the gross of your salary, which basically then ends up with free money for you. So you're going to be paying 7% into it, and you're going to be getting 7% back. So it's kind of a no-brainer really, because you are getting free money, but of course that will be taxed when you're 65, which is great for everybody. But you're never too young to start these things, and they can really, really be stressed out to all. Every employer will stress that you do start a pension as early as possible, because you might want to retire early, which is something that a lot of people do aspire to do. And the more you put into the pension, the earlier you can retire. And we don't know what the state pension is going to be like. By the time we're coming around to that time, it's going to be probably very, very difficult to survive off it. So make sure that you do start your pension and do your match, because it's basically free money in every sense of the word. And that fund will keep going and it'll follow you everywhere. Number 6 is start investing early, which is somewhat of a tax efficient thing to do. And this is something that I do as much as I possibly can, especially after before I went away traveling, and now that I'm back in Ireland and I'm full-time working, I'm starting to do it again as much as I possibly can. You can use, it's never been more accessible to do so. Even Revenue offer this. Trading 212 is my favorite one to go to for this. Just one thing that is a bit annoying about Ireland is they do charge you 41% exit tax, which is a bit crap. It's very, very high. And then even on general stocks, if you do make a gain, they charge you 33% on tax, which can be disincentivizing for people, but you still have to remember it's only on the profit, and it's still more money than you had when you started. So that's always going to be something to do. Even if it's 20, 50 quid a week, just do it as much as you possibly can. A lot of people do the it's like 50, 30, 20 rule, or 50, 30, 10, 10. So save 10%, invest 10%, enjoy 30% of your money, 50% is off like your essentials. Excuse me. But I know that's not basically achievable for everybody. They can't all do that, especially in the pressing times that we're in. But that's a good rough aim you can go for. But just invest what you can, when you can, and have a long-term mindset. And don't be rumbled by things like Donald Trump's tariffs or all this fear is in the market. If you're like 27, 28, you've got a long time to wait. Like, so generally the market has always recovered, and it always will go up in value as economies grow, which they will be bigger in 40 years time than they are right now, unless there's a massive catastrophe of epic proportions. So number 7 is the side hustle, which is somewhat controversial in ways. Like there's definitely a lot of things you can do in Ireland, and everyone say, look, you're going to get rinsed on tax, but yeah, you are going to get rinsed on tax, like basically 50% for doing this, but you're still going to have more money than you had before, which I know it can be a bit disincentivizing, especially if you're working a 40-hour week. A lot of salary workers will work more than that and not get reimbursed for it. But if you do have the time and have the ability to start a side hustle, oh god, but it is definitely worth doing, like, because you're still going to have more money than you had before, and that's the way you got to look at it. You're going to be giving up more time, but you're going to have more money than you had before, and if you have the ability to do so, it's definitely something that you can do. Whether you're just taking on some freelance work, like on Upwork, Fiverr, going doing like Deliveroo, whatever you have time to do, and something that you can choose your own hours, preferably, would be perfect for people. And it's just going to boost your income, it's going to boost your CV, you're going to have like more stuff on there, and people are like, look, this guy's an entrepreneurial spirit, he looks to be like a good person to have addition to our company. That also kind of maybe ties into, like, if you are in like a salary position, when you're a younger age, swapping every 2 to 3 years can really boost your income. So it brings you back to be able to negotiate your salary when changing position, and that's something that people do as well. So that's kind of tied into side hustle, but the side hustle is that you leave your job every 2 to 3 years. This is not really applicable to most people, but at number 8, basically you can rent out a room in your house. If you do own the house, it definitely helps. Like, so you can get up to 14,000 euros for tax free in Ireland, which is really, really good. So if you've got a spare room, you own the house, rent it out, it's really, really good. And that kind of ties into, like, there's a lot of companies that are going to be pushing this like agenda now that we should be looking at the existing housing stock that's there as a solution to the housing problem. Like, so a lot of landlords see this opportunity, or house owners see their spare room now as an opportunity, and people can live in a nice house that's looked after, it's well maintained, and you're living with the owner occupied, but it's just going to be a solution where you can cut down on your bills, save a bit of money, and maybe put towards getting your own deposit, whether you want to build or you want to buy somewhere in Ireland. And it seems to be the most cost-effective way to do so. But yeah, it's a way to boost your income if you do own your house. I want to get into like upskilling. So that's number 9. Everybody knows this, like you're doing your masters, doing Springboard courses, getting more advanced in your career. Like, you can do a lot of that sort of stuff. If you're into it, like, education never ends. You can keep doing more and more, and the more certificates, the more like level 8, masters, PhD you've got, generally the higher your salary is, and that can always be something to look into. And that's always going to be the case, where you will be gradually be able to earn more money from doing something like that. Lastly is number 10, and it's kind of what I touched on already. And I do want to stress it, like, it generally is the best strategy is always to set a standing order to put 10% in savings and 10% into investments. And that is just a rule you should live by if you possibly can. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but it is something that I do suggest that you do. And I think that's basically all of the tips really that I have at the moment that I can possibly think of. Hopefully some of these kind of helped you. I know it's kind of basic advice, but sometimes just doing the basic stuff is what you need to do. But also, if you want to take things further and you've got a bit of cash, you could definitely go to like a financial advisor. There's a lot of different ones all around like Cork that I know. You've got like Contracting Plus, like Financial, Alpha Wealth. There's two that I can like think off the top of my head. And not because I just used the word Contracting Plus, but yeah, I know the people there and they are great. But yeah, this is something to think about if you are looking to like take your financial health like really, really seriously. You want to consult a professional and they can manage it for you. So yeah, I hope this helped you. Have you have any other hacks? Buying and selling stuff, that also can happen, but can be quite stressful. Yeah, I'd love to know, and if you want to let me know in the comments, that'd be absolutely perfect. And yeah, that's my advice for today when it comes to some financial tips for people in Ireland under maybe the age of 35 or maybe older, who knows. Bye bye.